Okay, hi everybody. We are going to be doing hip openers today, hip mobility. You're going to need a blanket and maybe some pillows and some blocks if you have blocks. If not, books can work sometimes, or anything that is like a sort of shaped like a block. That you can rest your hands on. So you won't be putting all of our weight on them, but it's definitely something that we may need to rest our hands on. So gather those props, and we're actually going to get started laying face down on our bellies with your palms stacked on top of each other, elbows out wide, and just resting on your forehead, resting your forehead on your hands like this. So we're going to get started in that position. So again, we're coming down to our bellies. We're taking our palms stacked on top of each other in front of us, and then resting our forehead on the mat. And actually, grab your blanket now. And before you come down on your belly, fold it so that it's long like this, and then fold it in half like this. And then lay it down on your mat, right underneath where your front hip bones are going to be. So we're just going to create a little bit of, maybe you even fold it one more time so that it's in this long folded shape. And we're going to rest our hip bones actually a little bit further forward. So we're going to rest our low belly on top of the blanket. And then take your elbows out wide and just rest your forehead on top of your hands. And go ahead and start to close the eyes and start to take some deeper breaths. So again, the blanket should be a little bit above your hip bones, resting on your low belly, your low abdomen. We're going to take some deeper breaths here. Feeling the belly rise and expand into the floor as you inhale and fall as you exhale. Feeling the space that you're creating in the back body as you inhale, the expansion in the rib cage. And feel yourself sink further down into the mat as you exhale. Breathing deeply. So I like to teach a lot of hip mobility classes, because what I've found is that in our sedentary lifestyles, we tend to be sitting a lot. And when we sit in a certain position for an extended period of time, what happens to our hip flexors is that they are shortened. So when that shortening occurs, your hip flexors are actually connected to your low back. It runs from your hips around, or from the front of your hip around the side and into the back. When we shorten the hip flexors, our low back is compromised. So that's a lot of the time why we feel pain in our low back, because we're constantly in a seated position. And in addition to that, in addition to being seated all the time, our body's natural reaction to stress is trying to curl ourselves up into a small little ball, into a fetal position, which is our natural way of protecting ourselves. We're protecting our, by curling up in a ball, we're protecting our vital organs. So that's our body's natural response to stress. So when we're stressed all the time, even though we're not consciously curling up into a ball, our body is subconsciously trying to move in that direction. So we're always sort of like curling inwards in reaction to stress. So when we open up the hips and increase mobility in the hips, we're releasing a lot of that stress and a lot of those emotions that will get built up in that space. Continuing to breathe deeply here. Lengthening your inhales and lengthening the exhales. Go ahead and switch hands. So if you had your right hand on top, put it on the bottom so that your left hand is on top this time. And we're going to take 3 more deep breaths here together. So inhaling through the nose. Exhaling out the nose. Breathing in. Long, slow breath out. One more time, in through the nose. And out. Start to rise right your forehead off of your hands. Coming up into your forearms. So just take the blanket out of the way. So place it at the top of your mat. You may need it later. And then take your left arm out like a T, out to the side with your palms facing down. You're going to start to push into the right, and I'll face you. Push into the right arm to start to roll onto that left shoulder to open up the shoulder space. And your leg can just be stacked on top, or you can have it bent and place the soles of your foot on the ground behind your left knee. But we're just opening up that left shoulder. And it could, for you, it could look like any amount. It could just be rolling onto the left hip. You could come all the way back here. You could even bend the elbow so that your arm is more like a goalpost position. Maybe you reach your arm up and back and bind it behind your low back. And just take this wherever you want to go. However open your shoulder is, whatever feels good. And we're taking deep breaths here. In through the nose and out. One more deep breath here through the nose. And then as you exhale, we're just rolling back onto our chest. This time, take your right arm out straight. See me better. Drag myself back a little bit. Take your arm out straight to the right, your right arm out, palms facing down, and then start to peel and push into the left arm to peel that your chest off of the mat. So your chest is facing the left side of your mat, right arm is extended back. See if you can get onto that right hip any amount. This is easy for you. You want to take that goalpost arm to get a little bit of a deeper stretch. Go ahead and take that. You want to go for the bind with your left arm, behind your low back. It's totally up to you. Take deep breaths in and out through the nose here. One more deep breath through the nose. And then as you exhale, we're returning back to center. So our arms we want to take our arms back to where we started. Actually, take them onto your forearms to start. Start to hitch your left knee up. Drag it up so that it's in line with your left hip. So your leg is at a 90-degree angle. And see if you can work the left hip flexor down towards the mat. And then see if you can rise up onto your forearms any amount and come into this modified Sphinx pose. So with the left knee is hitched up. And sometimes we sleep like this, right? Where we're sleeping like with our ear turned onto our side or ear facing on the pillow, right? So the same sort of position. But I want you to think about pressing that left hip flexor, the left hip bone, into the mat so you can get your hips as square and flat to the mat as possible. Take a deep inhale breath through the nose and a deep exhale breath out. Inhale through the nose And exhale out. One more breath here. Maybe you come up a little bit higher. Maybe you straighten the elbows. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. One more breath, inhale. And then exhale, release back onto your forearms. Straighten that left leg out, and then we're hitching up the right leg on the other side. So right knee is in line with the right hip. And the foot is, your leg is just angled, or is in a 90-degree angle shape, so it's squared off. And then come up even higher on your forearms if you can into this modified Sphinx pose. So inhaling through the nose and exhaling out, trying to press that right hip bone into the mat and you mount. Deep breath in through the nose, and deep breath out. One more breath in. Maybe you straighten the arms. And deep breath out. One more breath here, inhale. And then exhale, release. Straighten out that leg. Take your palms right at your ribs and press up into tabletop position. So when we're in tabletop, our shoulders are right over our wrists and our hips are right over our knees. On your inhale breath, you're going to drop your belly, lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling, start to pull your shoulder or your chest and your collarbones forward and up, and maybe you tip your chin up, cow pose. And then as you exhale, take your tailbone down towards your heels, pull your low belly in, puff the upper back up, take your chin to your chest and press firmly out of the mat into the hands. Inhale, drop your belly, lift your chin, lift your chest, lift your tailbone. And exhale, round and curl. One more time through this. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the chin, lift the chest, lift the tailbone. And exhale, round and curl. On your next inhale breath, return to a neutral spine, back in tabletop pose. On your inhale breath, reach your right arm forward and extend your left leg straight out behind you. See if you can drop your left hip so that it's right in line with the right. Extend that left leg back through the heel and the inner thigh. So lift with the inner thigh, spinning the pinky toe edge of your foot down towards the mat. And then pull your belly in towards your spine. Press out of the mat with your left palm and reach your arm forward like someone's shaking your hand. Your neck is in line with your spine. Take one more deep breath here through the nose. Exhale, just place your right palm down. Start to take your left leg out towards the side, placing the inner arch of your foot flat on the mat. And you may need to grab your blanket and place a blanket underneath your right knee, just for a little bit extra cushion. Okay, and then we're coming up to rise. Arms come up overhead. Clasp your hands. And then just release the forefinger, the pointer finger, and the thumb. So you sort of have this steeple grip going on. It's like finger guns. Take an inhale breath and reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, we're going to tip over towards our extended leg to the right. So we're opening up the right side body, seeing if we can keep our chest and our shoulders square to the front of the mat, and breathing deeply through the nose. See if you can push your front hip bone forward and take your tailbone down towards your heels. Down towards the mat. Take an inhale breath here. Find a little bit more extension, a little bit more length, a little bit more space in the right side. And exhale. Inhale, slowly start to rise. Release the grip of the hands. Just keep your arms straight up in front of you. Then start to toe heel your foot towards the front of the mat for a low lunge. So your left foot is forward and the right knee is down. Now I want you to take your hands to your hips just to start. So a lot of the times when we're in these low lunges, people want to sink into the right hip, but I want to start a little bit lighter this time. So keep your knees at a 90-degree angle. So we have our hip right over our knee on the right side, knee right over the ankle on the left leg. And see if you can, rather than letting the pelvis tip forward like this, See if you can take your front hip bones up towards your shoulders and your tailbone down towards the earth. So you're almost like thrusting your hips forward to see if you can square the hips off to the front of the room and keep a neutral pelvis rather than tilted in any direction. And you should feel a nice opening in the right quad and the right hip flexor. Press down into the top of your right foot and into the right shin. So you should, when you press even firmer into that right knee and that right foot, you should really start to feel that engagement of the quad and the hip flexor. Arms come up overhead on your inhale breath. And exhale out. Take your shoulders down your back. Create space between the ears and the shoulders. Maybe you walk your toes out a little bit further, your left toes, and then start to tip your, or sink a little bit further into that front knee. Creating a little bit more space there. Pull your belly towards your spine. Cinch your front ribs together. One more deep breath here through the nose. And then as you exhale, we're going to take our right palm and place it on the inside of our left foot, keeping our left arm reaching up towards the ceiling for a twist. You can stay here or option to tuck the toe under, right toes under, and extend that, lift the right knee off of the mat for that full lunge twist. So that is just an option. You can keep the knee down if you'd like. 3 deep breaths here, in and out through the nose. Really press into the left foot here. Maybe squeeze that left glute so you find that support from that front leg. Take one more inhale breath. And then exhale, release, left palm comes down, drop the right knee if you have it down, and then take the left knee back for coming back in the tabletop pose. Okay, this time we're reaching our right leg back and reaching our left arm forward. So drop that right hip down so that it's in line with the left. Pull your belly towards your spine. Spread your right fingers wide and really press into the knuckle mounds of your hand to lift out of the shoulder. Lift through the back heel and the inner thigh. Take one more deep inhale breath here. And then as you exhale, release that left palm down. Take that right leg out to the side. Let me turn this way to face you. We're going to rise all the way up. Clasp our hands. Release the pointer finger and the thumb. Take an inhale breath. Find a little bit of length. Reach up towards the ceiling. Press that left hip forward and take the tailbone down towards the mat. And then as you exhale, we're going to tip over towards the right, towards that extended right leg. Creating space in the left side body. Squeeze your glutes here. Press into the top of the right or left foot, into the top of the shin, into the mat, into the blanket if you have it on the blanket. Create a little bit more space in that left side body. One more inhale breath. And as you exhale, slowly start to release. Come back to center. You're going to release the grip of the hand and then place the palms on the mat and don't do that yet. Toe heel your foot first into that low lunge position. And then we're not going to place our palms down at all. Sorry, my bad. So again, we're finding that those 90-degree angles with our legs, right? So my left hip is right over my knee. My right knee is right over my ankle. So we're starting here, placing the hands on the hips to start. See if you can push that left hip forward. Drop your tailbone down towards your heel. So rather than tipping that pelvis forward, see if you can, almost like thrusting your hips forward, find a long neutral spine here. And then reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Pull your belly towards your spine. Press firmly into the top of the left foot, into the left shin. Feel the opening in that left quad and the left hip flexor. Take deep breaths in through the nose and out. Maybe you walk your toes a little bit farther forward to sink any amount into that left hip, into the front knee. One more deep breath here. And then as you exhale, you're going to place that left palm on the inside of your right foot. Open up your shoulders to the right side of the room. Right arm stays reaching up to the sky for a twist. Option to tuck the toes under, lift the back knee for the full variation. And deep breaths here. You may need to adjust your stance so that your right knee is right over your right ankle. And really open up your shoulders and broaden the collarbones to the right side. One more deep breath through the nose here, reaching the arm up as high as it goes toward the ceiling. And then as you exhale, we're planting our right palm down, lowering the back knee if it's lifted. Stepping our left knee back to meet the right. Take your knees wide. Take the toes together. Sit your hips back on your heels. Walk your hands forward. Sit into child's pose. You can rest your forehead on the mat or a pillow if your forehead does not reach the mat. And 3 deep breaths here through the nose and out. In through the nose and out. One more time through the nose. And as you exhale, come back to tabletop position. Pull your knees together, tuck your back toes under. Start to lift your knees and straighten your legs to lift your hips high, downward facing dog. So check in with your palms. Your palms should be shoulder width distance apart. Fingers are spread as wide as they go. Biceps are rolling up towards the ceiling and your triceps are spinning down towards the mat. Take your shoulders away from your ears. Have a slight micro bend into the knees and reach your heels down towards the mat. Press out of the palms as much as you can to create a little bit more length in the spine. So rather than sinking into the shoulders and the palms, press out so you can create a little bit more length there. You can lift your hips up even higher. Pull your belly in towards your spine, cinch your front ribs together. Take one more inhale breath through the nose. And as you exhale, walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. You can move the blanket out of the way. Take your feet wide as your hips. Bend into the knees so that you can rest your chest and your ribs on your thighs. Grab opposite elbows and just hang out in a ragdoll forward fold. Let your head and your neck hang heavy. Drag your weight into the toes and the balls of your feet so that you can get your hips a little bit higher over your heels. Maybe you sway from side to side. Squeeze your glutes a little bit so that you find a little bit of support from your muscles in this fold. Take one more inhale breath through the nose. And then as you exhale, we're going to bend to the knees and just come up halfway. So a halfway lift. Take an inhale breath in this halfway lift. So we're finding a long, flat back here, a long spine. So rather than curling over like this, see if you can find a flat back. And then bend into the knees. We're going to rise all the way up on our next inhale. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. So you're reaching up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, we're folding all the way down. Coming back down on your inhale breath, we're coming into that halfway lift. Find that flat back. On your exhale breath, plant your hands on the mat, step back into high plank. 2 options. You can either lower the knees, lower the chest onto your belly, untuck the back toes, peel your chest and your shoulders off of the mat for low cobra, and then come up onto hands and knees, tuck your toes under, downward facing dog. Or from high plank, you shift your shoulders forward past your fingertips, lower halfway down into a tricep push-up so the elbows are pinned to your sides, shoulders are in line with the elbows, never letting them dip below the elbows. Untuck the back toes, peel your chest through your shoulders for upward facing dog with the knees lifted, pressing into the tops of the feet, and then using the strength of your core, pressing back and up into downward facing dog. On your inhale breath from downward dog, so we should all be there, Reach your right leg up towards the ceiling, bend your knee, and then open up your hip towards the side of the room. Take your left heel towards your right heel towards your left glute. And then start to draw big circles with the knee. Just lubricate that hip space. And then reverse the direction of the circles. And then place the right foot back down on the mat. Lift your left leg up on your inhale breath. Bend your knee, open up the left knee towards the left side of the room. Try to keep your shoulders square and facing flat towards the mat. Start to make circles with that knee. Really exaggerate the movement here as much as you can. Reverse the direction. Extend the left leg straight. Place the left leg flat or left foot back on the mat. Take an inhale breath. Come up onto your tippy toes. Exhale, bend the knees, sit your hips back, look forward, either walk or you can jump or hop up towards the front of your mat. On your inhale breath, come into that halfway lift, find a flat back. And as you exhale, fold all the way down. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing, arms come up overhead. And then on your exhale breath, hands come through center in front of your heart. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. Exhale, fold all the way down. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, plant your hands on the mat, step back into high plank, and move through either of those variations, either lowering all the way or halfway down. Inhale, cobra or upward dog. And then exhale, back to downward facing dog. Inhale, reach your right leg towards the sky, bend the knee, open up the hip. Make 3 circles in one direction and 3 circles in the other. Place the right foot down to meet the left, lift your left leg high, bend the knee, open the hip, 3 circles in one direction and 3 circles in the other. Place the left leg down on the mat. Come up onto your tippy toes, bend your knees, look forward. Take an inhale breath. As you exhale, at the end of your exhale, either walk forward or hop up towards the front of your mat. On your inhale breath, come into that halfway lift. And then as you exhale, we're folding. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing, arms come up overhead. And then exhale, hands come through center. Okay, so we're going to move through some standing sequences. This is going to be a pretty unique class. I'm going to actually move this back a little bit so you can see better. Okay, perfect. So we're going to move through a half sun salutation and then go through some hip mobility, more seated ones. So on your inhale breath, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. On your exhale breath, fold the cap all the way down. Inhale, come up halfway, and then exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. And then exhale, hands come through prayer and center. Hop your feet apart about to the edge of your mat. Turn your toes out to face the side of your mat. And we're sinking down into goddess pose. Straighten the legs, inhale breath, and exhale down into goddess. Sink a little bit lower. Make sure your knees are facing the same direction as your toes. Inhale, straighten. And then exhale, sink down. Take your palms onto the tops of the knees. Press into the left thigh with your left hand and drop your left shoulder down for this nice little spine twist. Inhale, take it back to center. And then exhale, press into the right, twisting to the other side. Inhale, come back up. Arms come back into prayer. Straighten the legs. And then we're going to hop a little bit inwards. Our toes we're narrowing the stance a little bit, and our toes are still facing out. We're going to come all the way down into a Buddha squat. So you may need a block or a pillow underneath your sit bones. If you cannot sit like this with your back straight, so if you're hunched over like this, place a block underneath your sit bones. Now we're in this Buddha sort of squat with a straight back. Take your elbows and
press them into the inner knees and press your knees into your elbows. So we're creating this opposite resistance. And what that allows us to do is broaden at the collarbones and reach our sternum forward towards our thumbs. And just look forward. Take an inhale breath here. And an exhale out. Fun little transition here. Release the arms and see if you can just sit back on your butt. So we're in a seated position with our feet flat on the mat. And just hold prayer hands here. We're going to start to drop our knees. And you may actually need to take your feet a little bit wider. So take your feet a little bit wider. Drop your knees towards the right. Come up on an inhale breath back to center. Drop your knees towards the left. So we're turning all the way as much as we can to face that left knee now. We're keeping our back as straight as possible. On your inhale breath, come up back to center. Exhale over to the right. Inhale back to center. One more time over to the left. Inhale back to center. This time, take your, you might need to scoot your butt back a little bit. But from here, we're coming into boat pose. So lift your knees. You can also just keep your palms behind your knees here and into low boat. You could take your feet down, feet up, arms straight. This is your variation here. So we're holding for 5 breaths. Inhale 1, exhale out. Inhale 2, exhale out. Inhale 3, exhale. Inhale 4, exhale, last breath. Inhale 5, and exhale. Okay, so listen carefully. This is a little funny transition. So we're going to cross. We're going to start to come up to seated with our legs are crossing Indian style like this. And we're going to try to roll over our legs to come to tabletop pose. Okay, so from here, from boat, we're crossing our legs, rolling over on a tabletop pose, coming into high plank, and then moving through your vinyasa. So that's a fun little transition there to work on. It requires some core strength and some hip mobility. Take an inhale breath in, downward facing dog, and an exhale out. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. Come up onto the tippy toes. On your inhale breath, lower or bend the knees, lower the hips, look forward. At the end of your exhale, step or jump or hop up towards the front of your mat. On your inhale breath, come into that halfway lift. And on the exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. The arms come up overhead. And then hands come through prayer as you exhale in front of your heart. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, rise into that halfway lift. And then exhale, fold again. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. Arms come up overhead. And then hands come through prayer. Hop, open. Hop your legs open, your feet open towards the outer edges of your mat. Turn your toes out. On your inhale breath, reach a little bit higher, stand a little bit straighter. And as you exhale, bend into goddess pose. Inhale, straighten the legs. And then exhale, goddess. One more time, inhale, straighten. And then exhale, goddess. Take your hands onto your knees. Inhale, drop your left shoulder down. And exhale out. Inhale, breath. Exhale, return to center. And then inhale, drop your right shoulder down. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale, return to center. Take your hands in prayer. Straighten the legs. Pop your feet a little bit narrower. Feet are still turning out. And then we're going to sit all the way down into that squat. So knees, elbows are pressing into the knees. The chest is reaching forward. Sternum reaching towards our thumb. Inhale, breath through the nose. And then exhale out. One more deep breath here. And then exhale, start to reach your arms forward. And then we're going to sit down. Woo! I almost fell down there, right? Okay. And so we're coming into those windshield wiper legs. So take your feet out wide, take your hands in prayer, drop your knees to the right, fully twist towards the right. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale over to the left. Exhale back to center. Keep your back straight as you can. Inhale to the right. Exhale back to center. One more time. Inhale to the left. And then exhale back to center. We're coming into boat pose from here. So your variation of boat, we're holding for 5 breaths. Hold for 1. Exhale out. Inhale 2. Exhale out. Inhale 3. Exhale. Pull your belly towards your spine. And exhale. Last breath, inhale. Keep your back flat and low. And then here we go. We're going to that transition where we're crossing the legs, folding over, and stepping back into that high plank position. Lowering halfway or all the way down to your belly. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. Exhale, back to downward facing dog. Inhaling through the nose. And exhaling out. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. Come up onto your tippy toes as you inhale. Bend your knees, sit your hips low, look forward. As you exhale, hop, step, or jump up towards the front of your mat. Inhale, breath. Come up into that halfway lift. Exhale, breath, fold forward. Inhale, rise. All the way up to standing. Arms come up overhead. And then exhale, hands come through prayer in front of your heart. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, rise halfway. And exhale, fold. This time we're coming up halfway. Actually, no, we're gonna rise all the way back up. Start to lift your right knee up and cross your right ankle over your left knee. I'm gonna face this way. And sit your hips low into this figure 4 chair pose, right? So you might need to adjust, but my left foot or my right foot is very flexed and I'm sitting my hips low here. So in this you should feel this in your outer right hip. And we're holding here for 3 breaths. Inhale 1, exhale. Inhale 2, exhale. Inhale 3, and then exhale, release. Hop to that wide stance for goddess pose. Take an inhale breath, find a little bit of length in your spine, and then as you exhale, bend your knees. And maybe you sit your hips a little bit lower this time as you exhale. Inhale, straighten the legs, and then exhale into goddess. Make sure that your knees are pointing in the exact same direction as your second toe. Inhale, straighten the legs. And then this time, exhale, hold. Knees come onto the tops, or hands come up into the tops of the knees. Inhale, breath, drop your left shoulder, and look over your right shoulder. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, drop your right shoulder, look over the left. Inhale, come back to center. One more time. Drop the left shoulder down, look over the right. Inhale, back to center. And then drop the right shoulder down, look over the left. Inhale, back to center, straighten the legs, hands come to prayer, hop your stance a little bit narrower, and we're sitting all the way down into that squat. Really press the elbows into the knees and press your knees into your elbows to see if you can pull your chest and your sternum forward into your thumbs. Inhale, breath through the nose, and exhale out. Inhale, reach your arms forward, and we're going to try to sit back down onto our butts. Take your legs out wide as your mat. Take your hands in prayer. Inhale, drop your knees over to the right. Completely twist over towards the right. Keep your back straight. Inhale, back to center. Drop your knees over towards the left. See if you can maintain the length of the spine here as you do this. Inhale, back to center. Last time, drop your knees over to the left. Inhale, back up, and then exhale right into chair pose. We're holding for 5 breaths. Pull your belly towards your spine. See if you can really get on top of those sit bones here. Keep your knees raised if you have them. So this is your variation, right? You can keep this. You can straighten the legs if you want for a little bit more challenging of a boat. And we're holding for 2 more breaths. Inhaling. Exhaling out. 1 more. Inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, start to cross the feet, and like you're rolling forward. You got to get that momentum, right? So roll forward, come right back into high plank. You might, if you're strong enough, you might be able to jump from here, jump into that low push-up, but that's totally up to you. On your inhale breath, come into your or your back bend of choice, either low cobra or upward facing, and then as you exhale, come to downward facing dog. Inhale breath through the nose. And exhale out. Inhale through the nose. And exhale out. Start to take your right knee towards your chest, but we're staying in this downward facing dog. Extend or cross your right leg underneath your left and take the outer edge of your right heel or your right foot down towards the mat. You should feel a little bit of an IT band stretch here. Maybe you take it a little bit farther forward for something a little deeper. So this should feel pretty good in the IT band. If you want to come forward into a high plank with this, that's up to you as well. It's a little bit more of an up level. It's totally up to you. You should feel a nice IT band stretch here. Inhaling through the nose. And then as you exhale, return that right foot back to center. Come up onto the tippy toes. Exhale, bend into the knees, sit low in the hips, look forward, hop, jump, step forward. Inhale, breath, come up into that halfway lift. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise to standing all the way up. Arms come up overhead. And then hands come through center in front of your heart. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, rise, halfway lift. And then exhale, fold. Inhale, rise to standing. Arms just come in front of your heart. Start to lift your left knee up, cross your left ankle over your right knee, and start to sit back into that figure 4 chair pose. So looks like this. And we're holding here for 3 breaths. Flex that left foot and energetically press the left knee down towards the floor. If you want to sink a little bit lower, that's totally up to you. Inhaling through the nose. And exhaling out. 1 more breath, inhale. And exhale, start to rise, release that left foot, hop your stance out towards the sides or the outer edges of your mat. Turn your toes to face out. And on your inhale breath, find length. As you exhale, bend your knees, goddess pose. Inhale, straighten the legs. Exhale, release, goddess pose. Squeeze your glutes at the top. Inhale, straighten the legs, squeeze the glutes. And then exhale, goddess. Place the palms on the knees. As you inhale, drop your left shoulder down, look over your right shoulder. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, drop your right shoulder down, look over the left. Inhale, come forward. 1 more time. Exhale, over to the right. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, over to the left. Inhale, back to center, hands come into prayer. Straighten the legs. And then narrow the stance, hop in. Take an inhale breath. And then as you exhale, we're coming all the way down to that squat. Press the elbows into the knees. Pull your sternum towards your thumb. Inhale breath through the nose. And then exhale out. Inhale. And then as you exhale, reach your arms forward. Sit your butt down. Take your feet out wide. Take your hands back into prayer. And then as you exhale, drop your knees to the right, fully twist towards the right. Keep your back straight as you come up. And then exhale over to the left. Inhale, come back up. And exhale over to the right. Last time. Inhale, back to center. And then over to the left. Inhale, back up. And then right in the chair pose. Holding for 5 breaths. Inhale, 1. Exhale out. Inhale 2. Exhale out. Inhale, 3. And then exhale out. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Last time, inhale. Now as you exhale, cross your ankles. With momentum, roll over, come back to high plank position, and then move through your flow. Inhaling into low cobra or upward facing. Exhale into downward facing. We're going to find that IT band stretch on the left leg. So cross your left leg underneath your right. Place the outer edge of your left foot off of the mat on the floor. So you should feel this nice opening in the hip flexor. If you want to make it a little bit more challenging, come into a high plank with that leg extended. Inhale, breath through the nose. And exhale out. Try to keep your shoulders square to the mat as you do this. One more breath here. And then as you exhale, place that left foot next to the right. Take an inhale breath, come up onto the tippy toes, bend the knees, look forward, exhale, hop, jump, or step forward to the front of your mat. Inhale breath, come into that halfway lift, flat back, and then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing, arms come up overhead. And then exhale, hands come through prayer in front of your heart. Okay, inhale, come up, or reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, arms or halfway lift. And then exhale, step back into plank pose. And then just lower the knees, we're coming into tabletop pose. Okay, so we're gonna take, you may need a blanket here. I actually recommend getting a blanket and opening up pretty wide, so like this, and placing it in the middle of your mat. We're gonna come into frog position. So take your knees, we're making a diamond shape with our legs, right? So we're gonna take our knees wide as we can with the inner edges of our feet flat on the mat. And then we're gonna start to lower onto our forearms and sink as much as you can your pelvis towards the mat. So if this is really painful for you, place some pillows underneath your pelvis, underneath your low belly. If you feel like you can go a little bit deeper, reach your knees even higher up towards your hips and sit your hips back towards your heels. So you should feel this in the inner groin on both sides. You can also place your forearms on a block to lift your forearms up even higher. And we're holding here for 5 breaths. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling out. Inhaling for 2 and exhaling out. Notice the difference between being uncomfortable and challenging your body and being in pain. So if you're in pain, back out of this. But if you're just feeling uncomfortable and challenged, then try to breathe through it. Take one more deep breath through the nose and a deep breath out. Slowly rise up back onto your hands and then just take your toes, tuck them forward or tuck them under, and then take your knees together. One last hip opener here. So you're gonna grab some pillows so that they're nearby. I'm gonna face you. And I'm actually gonna take this out of the way as well. So we're into tabletop position. You're gonna cross your right knee behind your left. So my right knee or my left knee is crossed over my right. And then see if you can take your feet out wide. So rather than together, see if you can take them out wide and slowly walk backwards so you're seated on your sit bones with your knees trying to stack on top of each other. You may need a pillow underneath your left glute, or you may need a pillow underneath your right glute. I would play around with this with a pillow underneath each side. The goal is to get your sit bones connected to the earth in some way. Okay, so we want a neutral spine as much as we can. see if we can get our sit bones flat to the earth. I actually think a pillow under the right hip might do a little bit more for you than under the left. On your inhale breath, reach your left leg, or your arms up towards the ceiling, and then start to turn your shoulders to face the left side of the room. Take your right elbow and place it on the outer edge of your left thigh, and then take your fingertips and place them behind your sacrum, behind your tailbone. Open up your shoulders and your collarbones broad to the left side of the room for this twist. This should feel really deep into the right hip, outer right hip, maybe even into the groin a little bit. And we're breathing here. Keep the feet flexed. In through the nose and breathe out through the nose. Breathe in through the nose. And then breathe out, start to release, come back to center. Start to rock forward so you can come back onto your hands and knees. And then uncross the legs. Walk your hands out a little bit farther and just straighten. Sorry, let me go this way. Walk your hands a little bit farther and just let your hips drop for a moment. And then come back up at the tabletop and then let them drop again. Back in the tabletop. And one more time, just let your hips drop. Come back up. And then we're going to cross our left knee underneath and behind our right knee. So it looks like my right leg is in front of my left. Take your feet out wide and start to walk your hips back so that both sit bones are on the mat. So maybe take up a pillow and place it underneath your left sit bone to just level out your hips a little bit, right? Feet are both flexed. The goal is to get both sit bones onto somewhere on the earth, right? Whether it be on a pillow or the mat. And your knees are somewhat in line with one another. On your inhale breath, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, turn your shoulders to face the right side. Take your elbow of the left elbow, place it on the outer edge of your right thigh. Take your right hand, place your fingertips behind your low back, behind your tailbone. And using the resistance of your arm into your thigh and your fingertips on the floor, press your spine or like pull yourself straight up, press into the earth to make yourself even longer and straighter from the crown of your head up towards the ceiling, and then twisting a little bit deeper over towards the right. So we're broadening at the collarbones, opening up our shoulders to face the right side. Take one more deep breath in through the nose and a deep breath out. Inhale. And then as you exhale, start to turn back to center. I'm going to move my notes. And then we're going to just rock forward, come back in a tabletop pose, uncross the legs. And then you're just going to drop your hips down and then come back in the tabletop. Drop your hips down, come into tabletop. One more time, lower the hips. And this time, take your knees together. We're gonna sit all the way back down on your heels into a modified child's pose. Rest your forehead on the mat. Take your arms next to you with the palms facing up. Let your shoulders relax and drop down towards the earth. Just take a couple deep breaths here. One more breath through the nose. And on your next inhale, slowly start to rise back up to seated. And just drop your hips to one side. Swing your legs out in front of you. Scoot your hips forward. And then you're going to come down onto your elbows. Tuck your toes underneath your sit bones, underneath your, like that bony part of your sacrum. And then scoot your hips forward so that we try to get our elbows almost in line with our shoulders, right? What do you think about this? Okay, actually no, scoot your hips forward so that your hips are more, or your hands are more on your glutes. And actually no, sorry. I had to think about this for a second. We want to scoot our hips forward. So our heels are forward and our fingertips are right at the tops of our glutes and our knuckles are right on our sit bone. Start to drop your head back any amount for fish pose. Maybe you point your toes here. Lift through the chest, broaden at your collarbones. Take another deep breath here through the nose. And a deep breath out. One more inhale breath. As you exhale, very, very slowly start to lift your head. And then release your hands out from underneath your sit bones. Take your elbows out and just come back onto your back. You may need to scoot forward a little bit. On your inhale breath, draw your knees into your chest and start to make circles with the knees to massage the low back and the sacrum. And then place your feet flat on the mat, about hips width distance apart. So your knees should be right in line with your front hip bones and your feet in line, your ankles in line with your knees. Take your palms, or take your arms to your sides. Fingertips are drawing towards your heels. And then see if you can scoot your hips a little bit forward towards your heels so that when you reach down for your heels, you can actually graze them with your fingertips. On your inhale breath, you're going to start to press into the soles of the feet to lift your hips up high for bridge pose. Press into the tops of the feet, squeeze the glutes, squeeze the low belly towards the spine, squeeze the quads, lift your hips up any amount. Press into the shoulders. Maybe you press into the head to lift your shoulder blades and tuck them underneath you, pinching them together at any amount. Press into the triceps to lift your hips even higher. Really press into the feet, squeeze your glutes, take your tailbone down towards your knees, front hip bones towards your shoulders. Take one more deep breath through the nose. And then as you exhale, we're very, very slowly going to lower all the way down to our backs. All the way down. And take a deep breath in through the nose. And a deep breath out. Take your knees back into your chest. Give yourself another little squeeze. Maybe you make a couple more circles. Reverse the direction of the circles. And then extend your legs straight out in front of you. Heels are resting on the mat. Outer edges of the feet are flopping down towards the mat. Take your arms out by your sides with your palms facing up. Lift your shoulder blades off of the mat and pull them together so you can tuck them underneath you. Press into the back of the heels to lift the tailbone up and tuck that under so that you're resting a little bit more in your sacrum. Then you can release the low back. Go ahead and close your eyes. We're in our final resting pose, Shavasana. Start to notice if there is any areas of the body that are feeling tight or compressed, or you're holding on to any gripping or tension. Just go ahead and release those. And enjoy this final Shavasana. I encourage you to stay here as long as you need, maybe up to 5 minutes, and enjoy this final relaxation. Just want to thank you guys for joining today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Just stay here for 5 minutes at least, please.